I know we landed early in the morning, it was raining, and we went up the hill, and we saw the barbed wire. It was a completely fortified, and in my binoculars I saw pillboxes. And I remember, I was very close to Churchill, went over to Churchill, checked, we never get through there. They have one chain of pillboxes. We need aerial support. And I remember Jack said, you're right, and he called in for aerial support. The big aerial support that came was one Spitfire with one bomb. I remember I went to the front of number two troop, and I was waiting, and I saw the Spitfire starting to dive bomb. I mean to dive. And I figured that might be a good time for me to get close to that pill. I saw a pillbox he was going to. And I remember while I saw the bomb being released in the direction of that pillbox, and somehow I knew when you hear the noise of a bomb coming towards you, it makes a whistle, which gets louder and louder, and the first thing you do, you duck. So I figured, this is my opportunity. I jumped over the fence. I suddenly realized there was a whole minefield, and I saw little wires, and I was already familiar. We had good training. So I jumped over the wires, got to the next wall. It's incredible. All of Yugoslavia, at least in that region, is nothing but stone walls, which the farmers had to dig up and put into walls in order to get some arable land. Anyhow, as I was running over the wires, I had my eye on the bomb, and I saw the bomb coming closer and closer. I figured I would make that wall. All I could remember, when the bomb exploded, I opened my mouth, and suddenly there was no air, total vacuum. And then, clap, came a total thunder. If I hadn't kept my mouth open or had breathed, my lung would have been torn apart. But I survived that impact. I was not that close to the explosion. I remember jumping over the wall, running towards the pillbox, and I heard bullets flying from all over. But all I can remember, I loped in a hand grenade in the pillbox and jumped on top of the pillbox, and I heard the explosion. Then I turned around and signaled the whole. It was not only our commando, it was Marine commanders, artillery unit. It was a division, it was a big unit. And then I saw Churchill getting up, and he had a sword with a red bandiera. I mean, very schoolboyish and theatrical, but everybody loved him. And he pointed the sword toward me, and at that point I took over command of the whole attack. And I remember running forward, breaching through the pillbox line, which under normal conditions would have been unpenetrable. We didn't have the heavy artillery or the kind of aerial support. We made it. We actually broke through. It was the southern part of the Krohodje defense. And I remember I ran, and I heard a machine gun firing, and I ran into the direction. I saw a window, I think it went there, and I had a hand grenade that said, in German, surrender, or I threw the hand grenade in, and I suddenly heard two voices from behind me, we surrender. And I looked there in a crater, were 4 Germans, and I couldn't understand why they didn't kill me. Then I saw all along the road, facing them, gleaming American helmets. I'd forgotten to mention, American units had been attached to us at that time. So I must have been an American Ranger Battalion. So they didn't dare to shoot me. I remember taking one German and shooting at his heel. I said, get me to headquarters. And I remember he ran and said, if you don't run fast, I'll shoot you in the back, in German. He ran, I remember, we ran so fast. We went to a big house, through the garden. A guard, when he saw us running, he put his hands up. He immediately realized what had happened. And I know the German, when he ran against the door, he smashed against the door, and broke down. He fell on the chair. I jumped over him. I said, everybody surrenders. You're surrounded. And it was very, very funny. An American colonel, I remember now, was following me with his Batman, which is some sort of an assistant. And as I lined up the Germans, and the first thing I always did, took their buttons, their weapons, their medals, anything that had any value at all. I took 2 Germans to take a stretcher carrier, and I loaded all the junks, the belts, the buckles, the helmets, the pistols, whatever. And I took one, I remember taking a gold watch from a German, and I remember the German saying, this is a souvenir for my father. And I remember telling him, and I will remember your father well. Then the colonel behind me said, I have 2 sons in America. Could I have it to send them as a souvenir? So I said, what the hell? So I gave him the watch. And this is a funny part. The sad part is, one guy who always wanted to be in every battle, his name was Rosenzweig. He was a very delicate, lovely guy. And I always said, he's not going to join us. He's going to be an instant casualty. He talked somebody into joining. He was the only guy on my sector was killed. And then we heard the terrible news. My best friend, Johnny, he was a policeman in the London police force. The Germans put up the flag, and when he went over the wall, he was in charge of the northern attack. The Germans opened up with a machine gun, and he lost 13 feet of his intestines. As a matter of fact, subsequently, I remember, I visited him in the hospital before he died, and the following day we buried him. It was heartbreaking, because the whole town came out and was weeping and crying, and here I'm carrying one of my best friends to the cemetery, and I remember the blood still dripping all over my arm. It was a heartbreaking experience. And that was Croatia. And this is the only battle I really remember very vividly. And I think I remember it vividly because it was because Rosenzweig, who I tried to protect, and my friend Johnny died. And all I remember, time after time, Churchill said, I need some volunteers to go with Fred. And nobody ever asked me whether I wanted to go.